Hey guys, welcome back to Life by the Bow. If you guys have been keeping up with us, you probably know that we took delivery of this 39 Front Runner here behind us about 8 months ago. And if you've been keeping up with us on social media, you probably know that it's up for sale. And today I'm going to talk about the truth towards Front Runner boats. You know, in the beginning, everything is always exciting, but as time goes on, you really get to learn the ins and outs, see how the boat really performs. And it's safe to say that we definitely put this thing through its paces. So today we're gonna go over performance. We're gonna talk about what it's been like actually dealing with the company. But ultimately, I think you guys will really enjoy this video because by the time we get to the end, you'll be able to differentiate why certain boats are cheaper and why certain boats are more expensive and what makes a great boat versus just your typical boat. So first and foremost, there's different types of boat manufacturers. You have a fully custom, you have a semi-custom, and then you have what's called a production boat. Front Runner falls between custom and semi-custom. There's pretty much nothing that the boat company won't do for you if you wanted to make a particular change to the boat. So for example, if you wanted to design your own console, maybe your own leaning post, that's something that Front Runner will do for you. You just have to compensate them for the time and materials. So that's what's really cool about Front Runner is anything that we wanted to do to this boat, they let us do. But to be brutally honest, I mean, there's not really much that we changed. Something I've really enjoyed about working with Front Runner versus some of their competitors is everything on the boat comes standard. You know, I've priced out boats that come without steering wheels, come without consoles, come without leaning posts. Whereas what you get on the base price of this boat is a console, leaning post, saltwater washdown, freshwater washdown, T-top. I mean, just about anything and everything that you need to go fishing comes on the boat standard. And I'm talking about GPS screens, I'm talking about radar. I mean, everything that you see on this boat for the most part is standard other than a couple options. So there's a lot of different engine packages that you can choose on this boat. You can do Mercury, Yamaha, you can do quads, you can do trips. Obviously right here, we went for the quad 400 V10s on the back of this boat. And if I'm gonna be brutally honest, I've never had a boat with quads. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I did choose to power this boat with quads. And since I've done it, I'm so glad that I did it. It's really nice, especially for what we do. We do a lot of long range trips over to the Bahamas. So just having all that power and all that torque whenever you're really coming in and out of all the waves, it's just nice to have 40 cylinders behind the boat to get it to perform exactly the way that you want it to perform. Docking is much easier. Docking with quads, basically the boat turns on a dime. And it's just anything and everything that you would expect it to be when running a quad engine boat. We're not gonna talk about how fast it goes. You guys are just gonna have to wait till later on until we actually put it through its paces out on the water when we put it in the water. But as you can see, we have a nice ladder here off the back. You can also do a dive door if you really choose to do that, but this has always kind of worked perfect for us. Just getting in and out of the boat right here onto the swim platform. And as you can see, we have a big walkable area right here if you need to service the engines, get in and out of the boat while diving or when you're at the sandbar. But it's something that's really well thought out on Front Runner's part, just making sure this area is big enough to do whatever you need to do back here. Now up here in the bow, we actually upgraded to a windlass anchor just because we do a lot of sandbar stuff, a lot of beach stuff over in the Bahamas. This is just really nice to have right here. You just push the button, it drops down, you're anchored up. Keeps things very simple, very easy. But other than that, I mean, not a lot going on. Like I said, that's not a standard option. You know, even the stainless steel rub rail, some manufacturers, that's an upgrade. It's standard on the Front Runner. Of course, there's a lot of trailer options that you guys can go with, but if you guys know us, all of our boats sit underneath the Ameritrails, and first and foremost, they look great. But one of the biggest things I can say is when trailering a boat like this, you want to make your life as easy as possible. And that's basically the motto of Ameritrail: load, launch, relax. As you can see, all the bunks underneath the boat fit perfectly to the bottom. So when you run this thing up onto the trailer, there's no messing it up. A lot of people have said in the comments, trust me, there's a way that I can mess it up, but I'm gonna tell you, you get that thing right up on the bunks there, you just winch it up, and then once you pull this thing out of the water, it's just gonna lay perfectly on the trailer. And that's really what it's all about. Another thing that's nice is there's all welded components on the trailer there, so you don't have to worry about any hardware failures. You know, top of the line brakes, top of the line materials. And at the end of the day, it just looks great. huge thanks to Ameritrail. You know, they sponsor us here on the channel. All right, so we just rolled on out of the gate there, and that is actually an insurance saver. And that's what's really cool about the 39-foot size specifically, is it's still a trailerable boat. Having your boat on a trailer behind a gate actually is a great way to save on insurance, but when it comes to this boat specifically, we only trailer in half-a-mile increments. And a lot of people question why we don't keep the boat on a lift, and that's just simply because we don't have the depth to put a boat lift at our dock. So we revert to trailering, and it doesn't bother me. You know, another advantage towards trailering a boat like this is you can save money on insurance by having a hurricane plan that basically entails trailering the boat inland. But I actually gave a little shout out to HH Insurance, which is my insurance provider, in the last video we did. And people commented back saying that they saved up to 50% on their insurance, which was really cool to hear, because I know that they could potentially give you guys a lot of tips to save a lot of money on insurance. So go ahead, give HH Insurance a call. They're gonna be up on screen right there. But the boat holds 550 gallons total. The main tank is in the center, which holds 450 gallons. And then you have 2 saddle tanks on the side, which are actually 50 gallons. So just in case you guys are in the market for a 39-footer and you're thinking about this front runner, when she's dry, she's 15,500 pounds. And when she's wet, the truck has absolutely no problem pulling this thing. Boat's in the water, not too bad. As you guys can see from earlier, I mean, when this thing is up on the trailer, it just looks huge. But once you get behind the wheel, you know, it feels like most 39-footers in its class. But, you know, something I enjoy about front runners specifically is you notice that they have very pronounced bows. You have a lot more fiberglass, a lot more freeboard. And that's something that I really appreciate, just because we mainly use this boat for long-range trips now. And now that I'm growing a family, that's something that's important, because ultimately you're in a bigger boat, you're gonna feel a lot more safe. But the performance isn't sacrificed, which we'll get to later on. We're gonna go over some numbers. But as you can see here, we're behind the helm. We have our 2 22-inch Garmin chart plotters right here. Many different combinations that you can do with these here. You can do charts on one side, you can do sonar on the other, you can run night vision, you can run your stereo system. I mean, Garmin has so many different things that you can integrate into these screens now. So essentially, these are the powerhouses of the entire boat right here. We have our vessel view, which basically shows us all of our engine data with our Mercuries here. We also have the Garmin autopilot. This is something that's really important, guys. If you're using your boat a lot for long range trips, there's nothing better than just pressing the button, sitting up here in the helm seats. Another thing that Front Runner does is they do what's called C-zone switching. Everything is right here on the chart plotter. Another way to integrate the Garmin MFDs there. Fusion head unit right there, which basically powers our entire JL audio stereo system. And we went a little above and beyond with that. There's plenty of speakers in this boat. Sounds amazing. We have a VHF radio right here, just in case we need to communicate whenever we're offshore, other captains. And then we have 4 standard cup holders here. And something to mention is all of this right here, guys, is standard. This is not an upgrade. In addition to the helm seats right here, you know, typically on competitors' boats, this is an upgrade. We got the armrests, we got the flip-up bolsters, and they're comfortable. Now, we just made a little pit stop back at the house here because it's noon, time to eat some lunch. But I figured this is a perfect time to just talk about the bow up here. And as you guys can see, we have a very nice big area up here, just in case you need to throw the cast net, or say mom or the kids want to lay out up here. Just plenty of space, plenty of freeboard to do whatever you need to do up here. And like I was saying earlier, just having that extra freeboard up in the bow, you know, you can just push this boat through 3 to 5 footers, absolutely no problem, and get to where you're going safely and comfortably. And that's one of the biggest reasons why you have a boat this big. But we have some pop-up cleats. This is standard. Combing bolsters, 360 degrees all around the boat. This is also a standard option. Right beneath that, we have an awesome use of space right here. Front Runner actually molds in these storage inserts right here, which is really nice. We use this a lot for flip-flops, stock lines, fenders. Like I said, we got 4 subwoofers in this boat. We have 10 8.8-inch coaxial speakers. We have a little storage compartment down here, which is really nice because just in case you get a tangle with the windlass, you have access to both sides very easy, which is very important because there is a point in time where that windlass is going to get tangled just the way it is. As you can see, we have a very nice diamond non-skid here. We have a massive fish box, also storage box if that's something that you want to use it for. But this is something right here that I call the front runner difference, and there's a lot of things that make this boat different from a build quality standpoint, and I'm going to talk about that later on. But as you can see, we have the logo etched in there, which is just really nice. All the hatches have really deep gutters, which is important because those deep gutters are ultimately what's going to keep everything inside of the hatch dry. The boat does come standard with rod holders, but we added a couple other ones right here. For example, these Gemlux lockable swivel rod holders. So what's really cool about these is, say for example, we're tuna fishing or deep dropping. If we want to lock these rod holders in a particular position, we can do that. But we can loosen them up at the bottom there, and then we could turn them into a swivel, which is really cool. We also have the cup holder / rod holders. Last but not least, before we break to lunch, something that's really significant about front runners is they do not have what's called ankle rollers. You look at a lot of boats and typically throughout the deck you see channels where the water's draining throughout the boat from front to back. Front runner actually makes these channels underneath the deck so you don't have to worry about slipping in a channel, busting your butt, potentially having an accident. So that's just a really nice touch that front runner does when building these boats. Another thing that I want to mention is front runner's carbon uniband. So basically, front runner puts carbon fiber in areas that are really prone to stress cracks, or say for example just need extra reinforcement. So that's another thing that front runner does. It just brings it to an entirely different level when it comes to build quality. And we put this boat through a lot, and it's very impressive how this boat is held up based on its construction. Now we're back in action after a little lunch break there, and from here we're actually going to head out, show you guys some performance numbers, best cruise speed, fuel economy. But before we get there, as you guys can see, we have the business end back here, and it really allows you to see that 11-foot 6-inch beam that this boat has right here. And something that's really cool on these Mercuries is they have a sport exhaust. And I'm sure you guys can hear how good that sounds, but just in case maybe you have some guests on the boat, you want to dampen the sound, and you just don't want that rumble. It just doesn't fit the occasion that you're using the boat for that day. You can go ahead, turn that sport exhaust off. And at this point, barely even sounds like the engines are on. But as you guys can see here and what we talked about earlier, obviously we don't have the depth for a boat lift. Max draft on this front runner is about 2 feet. And this may not be that important to some people, but for us, like I said, we do a lot of trips to the Bahamas, and we're always getting up really shallow, up along the beaches, the sandbars, stuff like that. So that's what's cool. I mean, this boat's basically 40 feet long. And as you can see, we're floating about as shallow as a 40-foot boat can possibly draft. All right, so we made it to about 4 feet of water, and that's exactly what this boat needs in order to get on plane without hitting bottom. First thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna see how long it takes us to get up to about 35, 38 miles an hour, and that's the best cruise speed for this boat. So, here we go. 3, 2, 1. That's 38 miles an hour right there. Another thing that really helps with hole shot on this boat here is the Seakeeper ride system. So as soon as you hammer down on the throttles like that, the blades drop on the Seakeeper ride system to point that bow down to get you up on plane as fast as possible. But we're gonna go ahead and lock in our cruise speed right now. Got about 10% of trim here on the engines, 38 miles an hour. And we are getting 0.9 miles per gallon. That's pretty impressive for a boat this big, running quad engines on it. And we have about 200 gallons on board right now. So this is typically how you're gonna run the boat. Say for example, if you're here in the Florida Keys, or you're going on a simple fishing trip that's maybe only about 30, 50 miles offshore. And if I have to say so myself, pretty impressive economy numbers. So not only is she big, she looks great, and as you guys just saw, those cruise speeds were actually really impressive based on the performance numbers. But anchored up here behind the islands real quick, got out of the wind, and I figured while we're here, might as well show you guys a couple more features, starting right here with the Coffin box. Typically, this is an upgrade with other manufacturers, but this is standard here on the Front Runner. One of the best parts about this Coffin box is it was actually very well thought out. The curvature, all the lines basically are made perfect to the point that makes this extremely comfortable. Easily fit 2 people right here, maybe a small child, and armrests as well. These are also standard, not an upgrade. Nice little storage compartment here, perfect for dry goods. We fit a 6-person life raft in there perfectly, towels. As you guys can see up there, we have a night vision camera. That's actually an upgrade, but I'm gonna tell you guys, really not that expensive, and they are the perfect addition to your boat if you want to do early morning or late night trips. Coupling that with the Garmin open array radar, basically navigating at night is seamless. You have certain things up on the radar screen, and then you have the night vision on the other side. And if you really wish, you also have the light bar right there if you choose not to use either and you're just pulling into the dock and you need some light up there. But the radar is standard. The light bar is actually an upgrade. And then as you can see, we have lighting all around the hard top, which is also standard. Oversized T-top, this is also a standard option. We have this beautiful de-extrusion right here, but as you can see, we have the glass windshield right here, and this is just such a nice touch, guys. I mean, this is one of the things that I believe just brings the boat from here up to here, and it just goes to show that Front Runner really cares about the way that these boats look, and they want to make sure that every single one that goes out the door looks great. And that's exactly what this windshield does with the curvature of the lines here on the hard top and the piping. I mean, they knocked it out of the park. They got it right. And that's something that I really enjoy, because I want a boat that performs great and looks good at the same exact time. And that's what Front Runner's all about. But moving back a little bit further here, as you can see, console is the perfect height for someone like myself. Have a very nice view over the bow there whenever we're navigating in those heavier seas. We have a compass right here that we never talked about earlier. But if we go right back up top, we have the Gemlux Blue Water outriggers, and we also have the carbon fiber outrigger poles. These are also standard. Like I said, guys, this thing is ready to go fishing right out the door. Something that we did upgrade was the Gemlux shade system right here. Now, Gemlux also makes shade systems for the outriggers, but when we're out there fishing, we still want to be able to use our outriggers and have shade at the same exact time. So this is an entirely separate system right here with separate poles. Typically when you have these shade systems in these boats, you have a pole that goes inside the rod holder right here. But as you can see, we have absolutely no obstruction when we're out there fishing. So we can have this up, we can have the shade, but at the same exact time, we can work around the entire boat and still have access to our outriggers. But enough of all this stuff up here. We're gonna pull up anchor, we're gonna head back out, and we're gonna show you guys some top speed numbers, and we're gonna also go over some higher cruise numbers. So what we're gonna do here first is we're gonna bring it down a little bit, and we're gonna do Wahoo high-speed trolling speed, which is around 18 miles an hour. And at 18 miles an hour, 19 miles an hour, we're doing 0.8, 0.9 miles per gallon. So that's something that's actually really significant if you guys do choose on doing some high speeding out of this boat. Obviously with the heavier load, you're probably gonna burn a little more fuel, but this is another advantage to having quads, is just all that torque at low speeds. Like I said, 18 miles an hour, 0.9 right there, as you guys can see on screen. So that's probably really important to the Wahoo guys out there. All right, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna pick up some speed. We're gonna do a fast cruise at about 45 miles an hour. We'll What's crazy about the quads, you just punch it and you're there almost instantly. We're already at 45. So we got about 16% of trim and we're barely touching 0.9. We're at about 0.8 miles per gallon, doing 45 miles an hour. Now let's climb up to 50. Give it a little more trim. We're gonna give it about 20%. We're still getting 0.8 miles per gallon. Now we're gonna bump it up to a faster cruise. We're gonna do 55 miles an hour, 25% trim. This is how I like to cruise right here at about 55 miles an hour. This boat does not like to go slow. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do wide open throttle, where fuel economy doesn't matter at that point. Miles per gallon turns into smiles per gallon. We're gonna trim out. We're gonna do about 28% trim. Gonna let it rip. Here we go. $65, $67, $68, $71. So 72 miles an hour. And if you want a little extra, you can do quad 500s. And actually the quad 400 racing engines, you'll see close to 80 miles an hour on this boat, just because those extra RPMs will give you that extra speed. You obviously have faster gear cases too, but 72 miles an hour with that whole shot acceleration is good enough for me. So let's go ahead and take it back towards shore, tell you guys a little bit more about Front Runner. Since we already showed you what these things can do right here, let's go ahead and move a little further forward. And on either side, we have two 65-gallon live wells right here. And the clear lids are actually standard, and both live wells actually come standard with a pump box as well. Now, another thing that's standard is a third live well in the middle, which is another 95 gallons if you wish for that. But what we actually did is we upgraded to this transom seat right here. This not only looks good, but it's functional. And for what we do, 65-gallon live wells on either side is just perfect for us. But not only is this great for cruising, but it's great if you just want to take a little break, or for example, you're putting on your dive gear or you're rigging up baits, whatever it may be. This is also a great place to put a cooler if you want to remove this seat and just have access or a cutting board right here. Moving a little further, we actually have magnetic drains here on the deck. So there's little gutters that actually channel into the drain right here. So if you get all types of gunk and seagrass stuck up inside of here, you can actually remove this entire metal plate right here and you have access to the drain underneath. But the build is absolutely massive. You have storage that goes all the way forward. The boat's Seakeeper ready. So if you wanted to add a Seakeeper, you just drop it straight through here. This opening is just big enough. You push it forward and it's ready to go. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, we have the nice deep gutters. We have the Front Runner 39 logo etched in there. And like I said, we have all the plumbing underneath the deck here. Now moving over to the side here, you can see we have perfect gunnel height. If we need to reach over, grab a fish, like we were saying earlier, we have the bolsters that are still carrying throughout. Got rod holders all the way down the gunnel. We have our lockable swivel right here as well. And what's great, Front Runner actually gives you two different fish boxes here on the deck. This one right here is a little smaller, which is the perfect size for any day out on the boat, fishing, adding food or drinks, whatever it may be. But when we're doing those long runs over to the Bahamas, we have a box up here, which is the Bahamas box, I like to call it, because it's much bigger and you can fit a lot more ice, a lot more food and drinks up inside of there. We also have salt water. This is fresh water, and this is another standard feature. This is not an upgrade, comes on the boat, ready to go. And then we also have another freshwater hose up in the bow inside of the anchor locker. Now coming back around, like I said, leaning post is standard, bucket seats are standard, but we have some access to some storage inside of there. We also have a little charger, USB outlet. Down here is all of our battery switches, really easy to get to. And now moving a little further back here, we actually did a little upgrade here. We added some more rod holders on the back right here, and we have plenty of rod storage. And one thing I can say about building a fishing boat is you always want to have storage within the center of the boat. I like having all of my rods in the center just because whenever we're moving around the boat, I want to make sure we can move freely and there's no rods to have to move around if we have them in any of the rod holders right here. But right here, this is a slide out cooler. Not only does this double as a seat, but what we can do, we can flip down this backrest, which is on magnets right here. It also use this for flip flops, food, anything you want to get to very quickly. We can go ahead, slide that cooler inside right there so we have even more cockpit space here. And then over on this side, we actually have a trash can so that way you don't have a bunch of trash inside of your live well. And this is nice because you just pull it out at the end of the day, dump it over the side in a trash can. We have even more tackle storage. We can hold up to 7 tackle boxes up inside of there. All right, so now we made it offshore here. A little bit of rocking and rolling. We got some 1 to 2 footers out here, nothing crazy at all. I figured it's better than nothing. And here you guys will be able to get a really good understanding based on how this hull performs, based on the way it sounds cutting through the water. Let's go ahead, get this thing up on plane, let you guys hear what it's all about. Like I said, nothing too crazy, but right now we're doing about 45 miles an hour, and as you guys can hear, no banging, no slamming. Every single entry is as soft as it can possibly be. Another thing that's great about this Seakeeper ride system, right now we're at 10% of trim. If I really want to, and I want to get this bow up, say we're in a following sea, right now I'm giving the boat 20% of trim. Any other boat without a Seakeeper ride system, the bow would be flying up in the air, but what's great about the automatic nature of the system is it completely keeps the bow under control, so you always have the perfect running attitude. Another great thing is it removes all the side-to-side movement, and with that, the boat lands perfectly on the keel every single time, so you have the softest landing that you can possibly get. But it's definitely more fun the faster you go in this boat. Like I said, we're doing 45. We're gonna turn it up a little bit, and we're gonna have some fun in these sea conditions right here. There, guys, is what being in a front runner is all about. So after a full day of fishing, you can then end off the day by coming down here, taking a nap in some of the AC. But you know, this is something that we were really excited about when we first got the boat, because now that we're starting a family, we have a baby girl, this is a perfect place for her and mom to go down inside of when things get a little hot or they've just had too much sun. We did the AC, that was an upgrade. The head, the toilet down inside of there, that's actually standard as well. The bed is standard, this entire console is standard, but it has just about anything and everything that you could probably want on a boat of this caliber. I've never really talked about the way that all of this works, but I told you guys, I'm gonna tell you the truth. You know, nothing I said today I felt like was fudged or fake. You know, one of the biggest reasons why I chose Front Runner, you've seen the performance numbers, you guys have seen us all throughout the year push this thing through the limits, and the fact that we've been able to produce 12 shows, I mean, just says a lot. And selling the boat has nothing to do with Front Runner. Basically what we do is we sell these boats once we shoot all of our shows that we're contracted to do, and then once we sell the boat, we profit based off of how much we sell that boat for. So throughout the support of you guys, it allows us to have these types of deals with these manufacturers. If you guys are interested on riding one of these boats, meeting us, being a part of the Front Runner family, and just seeing what this company has to offer, come out to our Sea Trial Demo Day in Fort Myers. That's gonna be May 2nd and 3rd. You can sign up down in the video description below. If you guys are interested in the boat, go ahead, shoot me an email. And thanks for giving us another great year here on Life by the Bow.